The story of Daniel begins in a moment of upheaval, when the people of Judah were taken captive by the Babylonian Empire. Torn from their homeland, they faced the challenge of living in a foreign culture with different gods, languages, and traditions. Among the captives was Daniel, a young man of wisdom and faith, whose life would become a testimony of integrity in the midst of exile. Though far from Jerusalem and its temple, he remained faithful to the God of Israel, showing that true devotion does not depend on place or circumstance. Daniel's position in Babylon was unique. Chosen to serve in the king's court, he found himself among rulers who believed they controlled the fate of nations. Yet through his gift of interpreting dreams and visions, Daniel revealed that ultimate authority belongs not to kings but to God. His ability to understand what others could not set him apart, and his faithfulness opened the way for revelations that stretched far beyond his own lifetime. The visions given to Daniel unveiled the future of empires in symbolic form, using beasts and imagery that stripped away the polished appearance of human kingdoms. To earthly eyes, these kingdoms seemed glorious, full of splendor and power. To the eyes of heaven, they were beasts driven by appetite and pride, destined to rise and fall according to divine appointment. The contrast between human glory and divine perspective is at the heart of Daniel's visions. Why did God choose to reveal the future in the form of animals? Beasts captured the essence of earthly empires more honestly than monuments or crowns. They showed the raw instinct, the hunger for conquest, and the fleeting strength that characterize human rule. Each beast in Daniel A.'s visions told a story not only of political power but of spiritual reality, reminding us that kingdoms built on pride cannot last forever. For Daniel's people living in exile under Babylon's power, these visions were both sobering and hopeful. Sobering because they revealed that great empires would continue to rise, bringing both challenge and hardship. Hopeful because they showed that all of these powers were temporary, subject to the authority of the Ancient of Days, and destined to give way to a kingdom that would never be destroyed. As we step into the visions of Daniel, we are invited to look beyond the surface of history and see the hand of God at work. The beasts may roar and kingdoms may rise, but above them stands the eternal King who directs the course of time. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and leave a comment with your thoughts so that together we can continue exploring these powerful truths. The first creature that rose before Daniel's eyes was unlike anything seen in the natural world. It appeared as a lion, the very image of strength and majesty, but its body carried wings like those of an eagle. To those familiar with ancient symbols, the lion was a representation of royalty, authority, and dominance. The wings of the eagle suggested swiftness, the ability to soar above others, to conquer with speed and reach distant lands. Together, the lion and the eagle formed a creature that embodied both power and majesty, a fitting image for the empire that at that time stood supreme, the Kingdom of Babylon. The Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar was renowned for its splendor and might. Its capital city was a wonder of the ancient world, filled with towering walls, massive gates, and palaces of remarkable beauty. The Hanging Gardens, often described as one of the seven wonders, symbolized the empire's ambition to create paradise upon earth. Babylon's armies had swept across the lands, conquering nations and bringing treasures back to enrich the city. Its king was celebrated as the ruler of rulers, a man who commanded absolute power. To the eyes of the world, Babylon seemed unshakable, a lion that none dared challenge. Yet Daniel's vision went beyond the surface. He saw not only the majesty of Babylon, but also its destiny. The wings of the lion were plucked, a sudden humbling that removed the empire's ability to soar as it once had. No longer was it the unstoppable force that terrified its neighbors. The beast was lifted to its feet like a man, and a human heart was given to it. This transformation pointed toward the story of Nebuchadnezzar himself, who in his pride was struck down by God, stripped of reason, and made to live like a beast of the field. Only after he acknowledged the sovereignty of heaven was his kingdom restored, and his heart turned from arrogance to humility. The symbolism of the lion's wings being removed spoke of Babylon's limits. Empires rise with speed and power, yet their strength is not their own. They are permitted by God to flourish, but when pride leads them to exalt themselves above heaven, their downfall is inevitable. Nebuchadnezzar learned this lesson through personal humiliation, and his empire would eventually experience it as well. The lion, though majestic, was not eternal. Its wings were clipped, its roar silenced, and in time its dominion was handed to another. The image of the lion also serves as a reminder of how human greatness can be both awe-inspiring and fragile. Babylon's glory dazzled the world, yet behind its splendor lay a heart that was corruptible, prone to arrogance, and vulnerable to judgment. What seemed immovable was in fact passing. What appeared divine was merely human. Daniel's vision tore away the illusion of permanence and revealed the truth that even the mightiest lion is subject to the will of God. For those who lived under Babylon's shadow, this vision was both sobering and hopeful. Sobering because it showed that no human empire could escape accountability, not even the one that held God's people in captivity. Hopeful because it reminded the exiles that Babylon's power was temporary, that the God of Israel had not abandoned them, and that he remained the true ruler over kings. The lion might roar, but its roar would not last forever. The story of Babylon is more than a historical episode. It reflects a pattern that has repeated throughout human history. Nations rise with pride, claiming glory that belongs only to God, building monuments to their own greatness and seeking to dominate others. Yet in time their wings are clipped, their roar fades, and their power is given to another. The lion with eagle's wings reminds us that human majesty, however splendid, is but a passing shadow compared to the eternal kingdom of heaven. The Babylonian Empire, once so magnificent, eventually gave way to another power, just as Daniel's vision foretold. Its glory crumbled, its gardens fell into ruin, and its walls could not protect it from the march of time. What seemed like an unshakable force was in reality a moment in the larger story, a chapter in the unfolding plan of God. The lion, for all its grandeur, could not remain king of the beasts forever. As the vision continued, another creature emerged from the sea, distinct from the lion yet just as symbolic. This beast was a bear, massive and powerful, its body raised higher on one side than the other. The image was not one of elegance or speed, but of raw strength and determination. Unlike the lion that struck awe with majesty, the bear conveyed an image of relentless force, crushing and devouring without refinement. The bear's uneven stance carried deep meaning. It reflected the dual nature of the Medo-Persian Empire, a kingdom formed by the alliance of the Medes and the Persians. Though united, the balance between them was never equal. Persia rose to dominate Media, lifting one side of the empire higher than the other, just as Daniel's vision portrayed. What began as a partnership became a hierarchy, with Persia driving the empire's expansion and shaping its policies. Between the bear's teeth were 3 ribs, an unsettling detail that added to its ferocity. These ribs symbolized conquest, the remnants of nations consumed by the appetite of the empire. They may represent the great victories of the Medo-Persians, such as the defeat of Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt, 3 powerful kingdoms swallowed by their advance. The ribs spoke of insatiable hunger, the empire's drive to devour more land, more wealth, more people. The command given to the bear was simple: arise, devour much flesh. It was an empire defined not by elegance but by consumption, The Medo-Persian Empire became one of the largest in history, stretching from the Indus Valley to the Aegean Sea, from Egypt to the mountains of Central Asia. Its roads connected distant provinces, its administration managed diverse peoples, and its kings ruled with authority unmatched by their predecessors. Yet behind its achievements lay the brute force of conquest, the bear's instinct to overpower and dominate. Unlike the lion, whose wings hinted at soaring majesty, the bear plodded with steady strength, crushing all that resisted. Yet even in this empire, God's hand was at work. It was under the decree of Cyrus the Persian that the exiles were permitted to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. What seemed like the whim of a conqueror was in truth the fulfillment of divine prophecy, as the prophet Isaiah had named Cyrus long before he was born. The bear, for all its power, became an instrument in the hand of God, used to accomplish his purposes for his people. The imbalance of the bear, with one side higher than the other, serves as a reminder of the instability that lies within human kingdoms. Even in their might, they are marked by division, by unequal strength, by tensions that eventually lead to weakness. The Medo-Persian Empire, though vast and impressive, could not stand forever. Its hunger for conquest drove it onward, but in time its strength would falter and another beast would take its place. The vision of the bear underscores the nature of earthly power. It may appear unstoppable, driven by force and appetite, yet it remains bound by the limits set by God. The three ribs in its mouth, symbols of conquest, remind us that human empires build their strength on the ruins of others, consuming what they can until their time is over. The bear may devour, but it too will be consumed. The Medo-Persian Empire, despite its dominance, eventually crumbled, leaving behind traces of its culture and achievements, but no lasting dominion. Its rise and fall, foretold in Daniel's vision, once again confirmed that kingdoms are permitted their season but none endure forever. The bear with uneven strength and insatiable hunger was destined to fade, making way for another beast swifter and more divided, yet equally bound by time. The third beast that appeared before Daniel's eyes was unlike the slow strength of the bear or the majestic presence of the lion. This creature was a leopard, sleek and agile, known for its speed and precision in the hunt. Yet this leopard was even more extraordinary, for it bore 4 wings upon its back and 4 heads upon its shoulders. The image conveyed not only swiftness, but an almost supernatural velocity, a power to strike rapidly and from multiple directions at once. The leopard symbolized the Greek Empire, most notably the conquests of Alexander the Great. Rising from Macedonia, Alexander embarked on a campaign that would forever change the world. In a few short years, he swept across vast territories, defeating armies much larger than his own, conquering lands from Greece to Egypt, from Persia to the borders of India. The 4 wings of the leopard reflected this astonishing speed, the unmatched swiftness of his campaigns, which left both allies and enemies in awe. What other empires took generations to build, Alexander achieved in little more than a decade. His victories were not only rapid but decisive, leaving little doubt of his genius as a commander. Cities fell, kings were dethroned, and cultures were absorbed into the orbit of Greece. The leopard with wings captures this momentum, a predator that moved with such speed that resistance was futile. Yet the vision did not stop with wings. The leopard had 4 heads, a detail that pointed to the division of Alexander's empire after his untimely death. At the height of his power, when no rival remained to challenge him, Alexander died suddenly, leaving no clear heir to his throne. His empire, so quickly built, was just as quickly fractured, divided among his generals into 4 parts: Macedonia, Egypt, Asia Minor, and the vast lands of the East. The 4 heads of the leopard spoke of this division, the splintering of unity into multiple realms. The story of Greece illustrates the fleeting nature of human ambition. Alexander sought to create an empire that would last, blending cultures and spreading Greek language and philosophy across the known world. He achieved much, laying foundations that would influence generations, but he could not escape mortality. His empire, though vast, was fragile, held together by his presence alone. Once he was gone, the leopard revealed its true form, not one head but four, not one vision but many. This vision also shows the precision of prophecy. Centuries before Alexander was born, Daniel saw the rise of an empire that would conquer with unprecedented speed and then divide into four. History fulfilled the vision with remarkable detail, confirming that human events unfold not by chance, but under the watchful eye of God. The leopard was not merely a symbol of Greece, but a witness to the faithfulness of divine revelation. For all its brilliance, the Greek Empire shared the fate of those before it. Its philosophy, art, and language left a profound mark on history, shaping thought and culture for centuries, but its political power dissolved. The leopard's wings of conquest carried it far, yet they could not carry it forever. The four heads reminded all that division and weakness lie at the end of even the swiftest rise. The lesson of the leopard is sobering. Speed and ambition may achieve greatness, but they do not secure permanence. Human kingdoms, no matter how extraordinary, are fragile, dependent on individuals who, like Alexander, are subject to the frailty of life. The leopard reminds us that what is built with dazzling speed can also vanish with equal suddenness, leaving only traces for history to remember. The fourth creature that rose before Daniel was unlike any he had seen before. It was not compared to any animal known to man, for its form was too dreadful, too strange, and too terrifying to resemble what already existed. This beast had iron teeth, great and crushing, and claws that tore apart whatever stood in its way. It devoured, it shattered, and whatever remained it trampled underfoot. Its appearance filled Daniel with fear, for this was a kingdom more brutal and relentless than those that came before. The nameless nature of this beast is telling. While the lion, bear, and leopard could be described by familiar forms, this empire defied comparison. It was not defined by majesty, brute strength, or speed alone, but by a ruthlessness that combined them all and exceeded them. The iron teeth symbolized unyielding power, the ability to crush resistance without mercy. Iron, stronger than bronze, reflected the empire's unmatched discipline and military strength. This vision corresponds to the Roman Empire, the greatest power of the ancient world. Rome rose slowly but surely, conquering lands step by step, absorbing cultures, and forging a dominion that stretched from Britain to the Middle East. Unlike empires that collapsed after the death of a single leader, Rome built its strength on institutions, legions, and law, enabling it to endure for centuries. Its armies were disciplined machines, its roads bound its provinces together, and its authority reached into the daily lives of its subjects. The beast's claws and teeth represented this ability to control, consume, and dominate with relentless efficiency. Rome's power was not only military, but also cultural and political. Its laws shaped governance for centuries. Its architecture stood as monuments to authority, and its influence permeated the Mediterranean world. Yet beneath its achievements lay brutality. The empire crucified rebels, enslaved the conquered, and crushed uprisings with overwhelming force. The nameless beast captured this mixture of civilization and savagery, a kingdom that brought order while inflicting terror. In Daniel's vision, the beast trampled everything in its path, leaving no space for rivals. Rome embodied this spirit, absorbing kingdoms into its structure, leaving little chance for independence. It did not simply conquer, it consumed, assimilating others into its identity while erasing opposition. The iron teeth spoke of its ability to crush utterly, while the trampled remains showed its disregard for those who resisted. Rome also stood at the center of sacred history. It was under Roman rule that Jesus was born, lived, and was crucified. The empire that prided itself on justice carried out the most unjust act of all, putting to death the Son of God upon a cross. In doing so, Rome fulfilled prophecy without knowing it, becoming an unwitting instrument in the plan of salvation. The beast that devoured so many became the backdrop for the greatest act of redemption in history. The terrifying nature of the beast reminds us that human power, when unchecked, becomes monstrous. Rome achieved greatness beyond measure, yet it also revealed the depths of cruelty that human empires can reach. It was feared, admired, and hated, leaving behind both legacies of law and scars of oppression. The nameless beast was not just a picture of Rome, but a symbol of the extremes to which human kingdoms can rise when they exalt themselves above mercy and truth. Yet even Rome, for all its strength, did not last forever. The iron teeth eventually dulled, the empire fractured, and its territories fell to new powers. The beast that once seemed indestructible crumbled under the weight of its own pride and corruption. The vision of Daniel proved true again. The mightiest of kingdoms, even those too terrible to describe, are bound by time and destined to give way to the eternal kingdom that no human hand can build. From the terrifying fourth beast came a detail that drew Daniel's gaze with intensity, a feature that stood out even among its iron teeth and trampling strength. Upon the head of this beast grew 10 horns, symbols of power and division, and among them rose another, smaller horn. Though insignificant at first, this horn soon displayed qualities that made it more fearsome than the others. It had eyes like the eyes of a man, and it spoke with a mouth full of boastful words. This little horn carried not only strength, but intelligence and arrogance, qualities that set it apart from the rest. The 10 horns represented rulers or divisions of power that emerged from the vast Roman world. Empires do not collapse in a single night, but fracture, splitting into regions and kingdoms that inherit pieces of their former strength. Among these divisions arose the little horn, a figure or power that grew larger than its beginnings would suggest. Its eyes symbolized insight, the ability to observe and understand, and its mouth revealed a spirit of defiance, exalting itself with words that challenged heaven itself. This little horn was not content with mere political dominion. It sought to go further, to extend its authority into matters of worship and truth. Daniel described it as a power that persecuted the saints, that sought to change times and laws, an image of authority that intruded upon the very order established by God. Unlike the raw force of the beast, this horn worked through cunning, words, and influence, exercising control not only through armies, but through ideology and oppression of the faithful. Across history, many have debated the identity of this little horn. Interpretations range from specific rulers to systems of power that arose within the remnants of Rome. What remains constant, however, is the pattern revealed. Pride that challenges the authority of God, persecution of those who remain faithful, and a desire to alter what has been divinely ordained. The little horn was more than a political figure. It was a manifestation of spiritual rebellion. The arrogance of the horn reveals the danger of human power when it sets itself against heaven. To speak boastfully is to exalt oneself, to claim authority beyond what has been given, to elevate human words above divine truth. The horn's eyes and mouth symbolize more than perception and speech. They symbolize the audacity of human ambition when it seeks to rival God. In every age, powers and individuals have risen who fit this pattern, showing how Daniel's vision resonates across generations. Persecution is a central feature of this vision. The horn waged war against the saints, seeking to wear them down, to break their faith through suffering and pressure. This imagery reflects the reality that the people of God often endure hardship under systems that oppose their beliefs. Yet it also serves as a reminder that such oppression is temporary. The horn may prevail for a time, but its dominion is not eternal. The attempt to change times and laws points to the horn's overreach into areas belonging only to God. Times and seasons are appointed by the Creator. Laws are established by His authority. Yet this power sought to alter them, bending them to its will. Whether through calendar, worship, or decree, the horn exemplified the arrogance of tampering with divine order. It was not enough to rule men, it sought to rewrite what heaven had spoken. For those who heard Daniel's vision, the little horn was both alarming and clarifying. Alarming because it revealed that persecution and arrogance would persist, even after the fall of great empires. Clarifying because it showed that God foresaw these trials and set limits to them. The horn would have its season, but its season was not forever. Its words would echo, but they would not silence the truth of God. The little horn stands as a warning across history. Pride that speaks against God, power that persecutes the faithful, and ambition that seeks to alter divine order are not confined to a single era. They emerge whenever human authority is exalted beyond its rightful place. Daniel's vision reminds us to remain discerning, to recognize the patterns of arrogance, and to hold fast to faith even when the world around us is dominated by voices that speak boastfully. As Daniel continued to watch the vision, the terrifying imagery of beasts gave way to a scene of overwhelming majesty. Thrones were set in place, and upon one of them sat the Ancient of Days, a figure radiant with purity and authority. His clothing was white as snow, his hair like pure wool, and his throne ablaze with flames. From this throne issued a river of fire, and before him stood multitudes beyond number. This was the vision of judgment, the moment when divine authority confronted the pride of human kingdoms. The title, Ancient of Days, conveys the timelessness of God. Unlike the kingdoms represented by beasts, which rise and fall within the span of years or centuries, the Ancient of Days exists beyond time, eternal and unchanging. His white garments symbolize holiness, his hair wisdom, and the fire that surrounds him judgment that is pure and consuming. The imagery places him far above the chaos of human ambition, seated as the final authority over all creation. The multitudes who gathered before him represent both the hosts of heaven and the nations of the earth, all summoned to witness the judgment of the beasts. No power, however great, could escape this tribunal. The books were opened, records examined, and justice pronounced. The scene reveals that history is not an endless cycle of rising and falling empires, but a story moving toward an ultimate reckoning. In this moment, the beasts that had terrified Daniel were confronted by their limits. The fourth beast, with its iron teeth and boastful horn, was stripped of its power, destroyed, and thrown into the fire. The earlier beasts, though allowed to live for a time, lost their dominion. Judgment was rendered not by human armies, but by the authority of the throne. This was not the victory of one kingdom over another, but the triumph of divine justice over all. The vision of the Ancient of Days speaks of sovereignty. Kings may boast, rulers may claim permanence, but all are accountable to the eternal judge. The fire that surrounds his throne consumes every pretense, exposing the pride and cruelty of human power for what it truly is. No empire, however great, can withstand the scrutiny of his gaze. His judgment is final, his authority absolute. For Daniel, this vision provided reassurance in the midst of exile. Though Babylon and the empires that followed seemed unshakable, the Ancient of Days revealed that they were temporary, destined to face judgment. The saints who suffered under their oppression were not forgotten. Their cries were heard, and their vindication was certain. In the throne room of God, justice was not delayed, it was assured. The imagery of fire also carries a dual meaning. It represents judgment upon the wicked, but also purification for the faithful. Just as gold is refined in the furnace, so too are God's people refined through trials. The flames that destroy the beasts also signal the cleansing of history, the removal of corruption and pride, making way for the kingdom that endures forever. The Ancient of Days stands as a reminder that history belongs not to the beasts, but to God. Empires may rise with the force of lions, bears, leopards, and nameless terrors, yet all are subject to the throne of fire. The vision shifts our perspective from fear of human power to awe of divine authority, reminding us that ultimate judgment rests not in the hands of men, but in the hands of the eternal judge who reigns from everlasting to everlasting. Following the vision of the Ancient of Days, Daniel saw a figure that contrasted sharply with the beasts that came before. Instead of a creature rising from the chaotic sea, he beheld one like a son of man, approaching with the clouds of heaven. This figure was human in appearance, yet carried divine authority, receiving dominion, glory, and a kingdom that would never be destroyed. The imagery pointed to a ruler unlike any the world had known, one whose reign was not marked by conquest and cruelty, but by righteousness and permanence. The phrase, "Son of Man," emphasized both humility and humanity. Unlike the beasts, which represented kingdoms driven by pride and violence, this figure was truly human, reflecting the dignity and purpose for which mankind was created. Yet his coming with the clouds signaled divinity, for in Scripture, the clouds are often associated with the presence of God. The Son of Man was both human and divine, a ruler bridging heaven and earth. Dominion was given to him by the Ancient of Days, showing that his authority was not seized by force, but granted by the eternal judge. His kingdom was not established through conquest of armies, but through divine decree, a reign founded on righteousness rather than violence. Unlike the beasts whose power was temporary, his dominion was everlasting, unshaken by time, unchallenged by rivals. For those who read Daniel in later generations, this vision found its fulfillment in the person of Jesus Christ. He often referred to himself as the Son of Man, identifying with this prophetic figure who would receive eternal dominion. His life, death, and resurrection marked the beginning of this kingdom, one not of this world, yet destined to encompass all nations. Through him, the vision of Daniel came alive as the Son of Man entered history to bring the eternal reign of God. The contrast between the Son of Man and the beasts is profound. The beasts symbolized empires built on pride, conquest, and oppression. The Son of Man symbolized a kingdom built on humility, justice, and eternal truth. Where the beasts devoured, he restored. Where they trampled, he lifted up. Where they exalted themselves, he submitted to the will of the Father, and through that submission received all authority in heaven and on earth. The universality of his reign is emphasized in Daniel's vision. All peoples, nations, and languages served him, a kingdom not bound by geography or ethnicity, but open to every tribe and tongue. Unlike the empires of men, which rise and fall within borders and cultures, the kingdom of the Son of Man stretches across all creation, uniting humanity under the rule of heaven. For those in exile, this vision was a promise of hope. The kingdoms that oppressed them would pass away, but a kingdom was coming that no beast could challenge. Their suffering was not in vain, their faith not forgotten. The Son of Man would establish a reign that brought justice, peace, and everlasting glory. This was the assurance that beyond the chaos of history stood the certainty of God's eternal kingdom. The vision of the Son of Man continues to inspire today. It calls us to look beyond the passing powers of the world and place our trust in the one whose dominion cannot be shaken. Empires rise and fall, leaders boast and fade, but the Son of Man reigns forever. His kingdom is everlasting, his authority unending, and his glory unmatched. The visions of Daniel were not confined to the past, nor were they mere predictions of empires long gone. They carry echoes that resound through history, patterns that repeat in different forms across the ages. The beasts symbolize not only Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece and Rome, but also the enduring reality of human power corrupted by pride. In every generation, the imagery of the beasts finds expression in rulers, systems, and movements that exalt themselves above truth and justice. The lion, the bear, the leopard, and the nameless beast reveal the progression of human kingdoms, each unique, yet sharing the same flaw: the pursuit of glory apart from God. Babylon dazzled with splendor, Persia devoured with strength, Greece conquered with speed, and Rome crushed with ruthlessness. These characteristics are not confined to history books. They live on in modern powers that exalt majesty, appetite, ambition, and domination, repeating the same patterns under new names and faces. The little horn, with its boastful words and persecution of the faithful, remains especially relevant. Across centuries, powers have arisen that seek to silence faith, to change what God has ordained, to elevate human authority above divine command. Whether through governments, ideologies, or institutions, the voice of the horn continues to echo, reminding us that the battle between pride and humility, between oppression and faithfulness, is not yet over. Yet, the vision of the Ancient of Days provides assurance that justice remains certain. History may seem dominated by beasts, yet all are accountable to the throne of fire. Empires rise with arrogance, but they face judgment in their appointed time. The records are kept, the books are opened, and the authority of the eternal judge cannot be denied. For every beast that tramples, there comes a day when its power is stripped away. The Son of Man, too, speaks into the present. His everlasting kingdom calls humanity to lift its eyes beyond the fleeting powers of the world. Nations may boast of permanence, but only his dominion endures. His kingdom is not defined by conquest, but by redemption, not by oppression, but by grace. In him, the vision of Daniel finds fulfillment, and in him, humanity finds hope beyond the rise and fall of empires. The echoes of Daniel's visions can be seen in the legacies of law, culture, and philosophy left by these ancient empires. Rome shaped governance, Greece influenced thought, Persia demonstrated vast administration, and Babylon revealed both splendor and arrogance. These legacies continue to shape modern society, reminding us that history is not disconnected but woven together by patterns foretold long ago. The relevance of Daniel's vision lies not only in its accuracy, but in its call to faith. It invites us to see beyond the surface of history, to recognize the forces at work, and to trust that God's hand guides the course of time. Empires may boast of eternity, but only one kingdom truly lasts. The beasts may roar, devour, and trample, but their reign is brief compared to the eternal dominion of the Son of Man. For every generation, the message remains the same. Do not place ultimate trust in the kingdoms of men, for they are but beasts rising from the sea. Place your trust in the eternal King, whose reign is unshaken, whose authority is everlasting, and whose glory endures through all ages. Daniel's vision is not just history, it is a mirror for the present, a call to live with discernment, faith, and hope in the midst of a world still echoing with the voices of beasts. Daniel's vision was not given only to describe distant kingdoms or to satisfy curiosity about the future. It carried a message that touched his own life and continues to speak to ours today. He lived as a faithful man in the midst of Babylon, serving in the courts of kings who claimed divine power, yet he never compromised his devotion to the God of Israel. His example shows us that even while surrounded by systems that resemble beasts, people of faith can stand firm, living with courage and integrity. The beasts in the vision were not merely symbols of long-past empires. They represent the reality of human pride and power that exists in every age. We live in a world still shaped by ambitions, by the hunger for control, by voices that exalt themselves and trample others. These systems may not always appear as lions, bears, or leopards, but their spirit is the same. They demand loyalty. They pressure conscience. They offer promises of security or greatness, yet they stand in contrast to the eternal kingdom of God. For those who follow the example of Daniel, the call is not to withdraw from the world, but to live faithfully within it. Daniel served in Babylon without becoming Babylonian in his heart. He worked with excellence, he honored his duties, yet when commanded to compromise his worship, he chose obedience to God above all. His story shows that faithfulness is possible even in hostile environments, and that integrity shines brightest in the darkest places. Living among beasts requires discernment. Just as Daniel interpreted the dreams and visions of kings, believers today are called to recognize the patterns of pride and corruption around them. It is easy to be swept along by the power and promises of worldly systems, but the vision reminds us that they are temporary. To discern is to see through their glittering appearance and recognize their fragility. To place trust not in passing empires, but in the eternal King. Courage is also essential. The little horn in Daniel's vision spoke boastfully and persecuted the saints, and history shows that faith has often been tested by opposition. Yet Daniel's life, along with the vision itself, assures us that no persecution lasts forever. The beasts may roar, but their voices fade. Those who endure with courage find themselves vindicated, upheld by the Ancient of Days, and welcomed into the everlasting kingdom of the Son of Man. Faith in a world of empires is not passive but active. It is lived out in daily choices, to speak truth when lies are easier, to show kindness when cruelty dominates, to remain steadfast when compromise promises comfort. Daniel's story encourages us to remain unshaken, to live with integrity even when surrounded by corruption, and to hold fast to hope even when beasts seem to rule. The vision also calls us to lift our eyes beyond the present struggles. Human kingdoms may intimidate, but they are temporary. God's kingdom is everlasting, and it is to this kingdom that we belong. When we remember that the Son of Man reigns, we find strength to endure, perspective to persevere, and courage to remain faithful. The beasts may dominate the stage of history, but the final act belongs to God. Living among beasts is a challenge, but it is also an opportunity to shine. Daniel's faithfulness in Babylon made him a witness not only to kings, but to generations who would follow. In the same way, the lives of the faithful today can testify to a higher authority, showing the world that there is a kingdom not built on pride or power, but on truth and love. The vision of Daniel closes not with despair, but with hope. The beasts fall, the horn is silenced, judgment is rendered, and the Son of Man receives everlasting dominion. This is the story we live in, the assurance that sustains us, the promise that gives meaning to our lives. To live among beasts is to live in the tension between what is passing and what is eternal, but it is also to live with confidence that the eternal will triumph. In conclusion, Daniel's visions remind us that human empires rise and fall, but the kingdom of God endures forever. They teach us to recognize the patterns of pride, to remain faithful in the midst of pressure, and to place our trust in the Son of Man, whose dominion is eternal. Just as Daniel stood firm in Babylon, we too are called to live with courage and integrity in our world today, knowing that the Ancient of Days reigns and his kingdom will never be destroyed. If this message spoke to your heart, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and send it to your friends and loved ones so that they too can be encouraged by the hope and truth found in these visions. Together, we can continue to grow in understanding, faith, and the assurance that no matter how loud the beasts may roar, The everlasting kingdom belongs to our God.